As you well know if you've been watching this space for a few months, I love me some quality real-time strategy. My favorite game of all time, thus far considering time hasn't ended yet, is Age of Mythology, an RTS, and I've owned dozens of these games over the years, from Age of Empires and Rise of Nations, to Company of Heroes and StarCraft of... Wait, no, that one's just StarCraft. But there is one RTS I've never played that I kinda wish I had, and that's the original Halo Wars. It was an RTS designed specifically for a controller by Ensemble Studios, the developer behind my favorite series of RTSs, Age of Empires. So when Microsoft announced that they were opening up the new game mode of Halo Wars 2 for an open beta on PC, I figured I'd better get in there and try it out. The lead developer on the game looks to have been Creative Assembly, the devs behind the Total War series, which is yet another excellent strategy series. I've played a few of the Total War games and rather liked them, so I was expecting good things. The original Halo Wars was only ever released on consoles, which is why I've never played it, but from what I understand it was probably the only RTS to really work well when played with a controller. I get that. Traditional RTSs tend to rely heavily on a large number of hotkeys for quick navigation, and controllers tend to run short on buttons when compared to the real estate of a keyboard. But if you strip down and simplify the gameplay mechanics such that you only need 10 or so hotkeys, there's no reason a controller wouldn't work. That said, my first impression of Halo Wars 2's Blitz Mode is that this is the premier online console-focused multiplayer RTS experience. In some ways, it's reminiscent of a traditional RTS multiplayer deathmatch, where you start with a huge stockpile of resources and the victory is usually decided by build order, army composition, and movement strategy, as opposed to base building or army management. Basically, it just allows you to get to the actiony bits really fast. And while that's certainly true of Blitz Mode, it also feels a little bit like a MOBA crossed with Battlefield, if that makes any sense. The map consists of 2 spawn points, one for each team, kinda like a MOBA, and while it's true you can drop units anywhere on the map, they come in with weakened stats as a result of deployment fatigue. On the map, you have 3 control areas, and as long as you control at least 2 of them, your team will earn points toward victory. First team to 200 points wins, and in that way it does evoke Battlefield's multiplayer mechanics. You also drop units not by building structures, but by drawing cards from a deck you prepared beforehand based on the amount of energy you have and the energy cost of the card. So actually, in that way, it's a little bit like Hearthstone. So, there you go. Halo Wars 2's Blitz Mode is a cross between an RTS deathmatch, a MOBA, Battlefield, and Hearthstone. Of course, when you go and compile game mechanics from that many different sources, you usually wind up with something that's entirely unique. Well, it's true that I can point to these mechanics and say this feels like this. The end product, taken as a whole, feels like nothing else I've ever played, and that's a good thing. I suspect it's going to be a really excellent and fast-paced multiplayer experience on consoles, but from a PC perspective, it feels really simplified. I suspect the main game isn't so minimalist, and that may be a better experience for PC players, so I'm trying not to judge too harshly. But beyond that, the controllability for PCs is somewhat odd. It definitely feels like it was made for controllers first. It was fun, don't get me wrong, and the games were fast-paced, and there is some interesting strategy at play between unit management and deck building. If you're at all interested, you might want to grab the beta off of the Windows Store and give it a roll. It'll be available till January 30th. I suspect that if you get discouraged or annoyed with the complexity of traditional real-time strategy games, Halo Wars 2 may just be the game that gets you to fall in love with the genre. Me, I'm more interested in Halo Wars 2 than I was before, but I'm actually more interested in grabbing some of the Total War games I missed. If Creative Assembly did this well with a game intended for controllers, imagine what they've been doing when there's a whole keyboard to work with.